the other aspects related to the control flow. In the earlier session, we have seen all the examples like variables and as well as assignment of the variables, Boolean considerations, true or false, and then we have seen some sort of the data types. Okay, along with that, we observed some identifiers and operators. These things we have seen. Um, if you are observing the quick walkthrough, so just you have a look on this. Just I am making use of these things, arithmetic operations. We have seen addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, and power, just with the help of some of the variables. And float division is a decimal kind of thing, whereas floor division gives the integer kind of division. Modulus, power, all those things we have seen, and relational operators, less than, greater than, all these kind of things, and Boolean, true or false. True represent 1 and false represent 0. That we have seen. And then some sort of the assignment, equality checking, all these things we have done, along with this assignment operators. And two categories we have seen. Like individual, I can assign the values, or else the same value we can assign. And shorthand writing also we have seen. Okay, in a typical programming environment, rather than writing the code heavily, it is always preferable to write the code in the shortest form. And logical operators, and, or, and not, those things also we have observed in the earlier sessions. If you need any additional information, go to the session one and session two, friends. Okay, right. And thereafter, the membership operations like in and not in. Whereas if I want to check whether a particular pattern is available in the string or not, and there to reciprocate that particular thing, just we're having the not in and as well as the not in. And thereafter, there is a specific property is there for Python friends like ID, identification of the variables. Like if the variable is having same value, multiple variables are having the same value, then the ID would be same. Okay, so that we have seen, and if they are different, then we'll be getting the different IDs. Okay, and deletion. If I don't want to maintain a particular data item, then you can make use of that convention also. So that is how you can specify the usage of these variables. And typecasting, basically, if I want to add integer and float, it by default gives the floating kind of the outcome. Sometimes, if I want to explicitly convert a string type into the integer, then you can do that. All these things we have seen in the earlier sessions. Now, most importantly, friends, a typical programming environment, there are certain aspects like I'm dealing with the control flow. Okay, so what do you mean by control flow? Suppose I am writing a code like this. So there is some employee data I'm having, and based on the experience of the employee, if the employee is greater than 5 years, then I want to allow him to relocate, maybe to another office or another city. Maybe currently he is working in Bangalore and he want to move to Hyderabad. So the condition here is he should provide experience as greater than 5. Maybe some other aspect, like in the payroll calculation of the employee, is a monthly kind of thing. Okay, is a routine activity. Okay, where repeatedly. Okay, so repeatedly we need to perform some sort of the activities. So in that particular case, friends, we are having conditional statements, some sort of conditional statements we are having, where checking the condition and accordingly the uh, appropriate activities are taking place. Whereas if you are referencing the other thing, looping construct actually. So looping constructs. So these two are most commonly used kind of things, friends. Okay. So looping, where I can make use of the for. and as well as the while statement. If I am referencing the conditional statement, I can see if statement, if else, like that I'm having the multiple possibilities. So the point here is in the typical understanding of the programming. So always we are not going to implement the sequential flow of the data. Sequential flow in the sense like statement one, two, and so on, statement n in the same order we are going to execute. But in the conditional, okay, what we'll do is just what we are making use S1, S2, and in S3 I want to check some condition. Then only I want to execute S4. Otherwise, if the condition is false or no, then I should execute S5. These are all the examples of the conditional flow. Similarly, we are having the looping concepts. So looping, what it says is, suppose if I want to execute this particular statement n number of times, say I'm having 2,500 employees in my company, and for all those employees, I want to calculate the payroll of the employee. So then for all the 2,500 members, we need to compute this kind of thing. Let us understand some of the examples related to the conditional statements and as well as the looping constructs. And these things are pretty helpful, friends, in the especially in the logical building and programming aspects. Without these conditions and looping constructs, it is very difficult for us to implement the coding, no matter whether in Python, Java, or whichever C, C, P, P. In all these kind of the programming, we are having the support of these programming constructs. And let me give you the flow of the control statements. And most importantly, if you are referring the conditional statements or certain functionalities, we are having some kind of indentation concept. Indentation in the sense, see here, suppose I am having x value as 10, and thereafter, what I am checking is if x value is greater than 100. And remember that especially Python, in Python, just while making use of these conditional statements or looping, after completion of this construct, I should give the colon. Now, at the moment you see x equal to 100, I'm giving y value as 20, suppose y value as 20. Now, the control automatically goes to the beginning of the line. Whereas, if you observe the if statement, and after giving the condition, if you are entering, see, just this is the indentation. The cursor is not moving to the beginning of the corresponding cell, but rather it is landing on the some kind of the space, which is a tab kind of thing in our keyboard. So that is automatically this Jupyter notebook observes. And whereas if you are using some notepad or wordpad, and later you can submit your Python code to the command prompt. In that particular case, explicitly you need to take care about the indentation, because while using PyCharm or if you are using Jupyter Notebook, these editors automatically take care about the indentation. But whereas if you are using some other programmatical tools or some editors which are not IDEs, especially this PyCharm and Jupyter Notebook, then you need to explicitly maintain that convention. So always the preferable version of managing these conventions is you should maintain the you should better to use the Jupyter Notebook and as well as PyCharm kind of the editors which are by default supported with Python programming language. So with that, just you are making use of the conditional statements. So as I said earlier, what I'm doing here is I'm having some x value, and just I'm checking that. Okay, if x value is greater than 10, then I'm making use of print high. Okay, just if it is true, then only I want to make a print. And whereas if suppose that if I am not following the indentation, maybe if you are having some doubt, if I am not following the indentation, then what is going to happen? So just Python won't allow us, and it is clearly mentioned that the indentation error. Okay, I'm keeping this cell as it is friends without modifying. So the correctness is the correct way of executing is this one. But observe that how important the indentation is in the in Python program. So if you are referencing the condition, Just if I'm making use of another example, as I said, experience of particular employee ABC is 8, and the condition of the as per the policy of the company, just to observe, guys, if that person is having greater than 8 years of experience, then he is eligible to relocate. So experience value greater than 5, so that just we are checking the condition and we are printing out. Okay, so then if I'm running this, obviously it is giving employee is eligible. Whereas if you are seeing this kind of experience as 3, and I'm checking the condition, and if the condition is 2, then only he is eligible to relocate. If I'm running also, it is not giving any uh, outcome, friends. Okay, maybe if you see this kind of the convention, because this experience value is not satisfying the condition, it is not executing the statement. That's fine. But some alternative we have to see. For that, we are having other way of doing the things is, suppose if the condition is true, it's okay. Immediate statement is going to execute. Otherwise, what it does is, just it is looking for the next part, that is the else part actually. So this particular else part is something like, as we need to inform to the employee, like as you are not having the experience as 5, you are not eligible to relocate. Maybe the company policy is like that, so that we are informing the policy to the corresponding employee. So the if statement only focus on the condition satisfaction, else focus on, suppose that if in this example, if the condition is not true, then we have to see the else part. Now, another example, to notify experience of the employee is 6, and we are checking that experience is greater than 5, then he is eligible to relocate. Else, as experience is less than 5, obviously he is not eligible. Now, see here, experience 6, definitely if condition is true, then he is eligible to relocate from one office to another office. Similar to this kind of things, most importantly, guys, the conditional statements or looping constructs may be used to allow various kinds of the aspects, like where I can check, where I can observe some sort of the uh, modulus operations, or whatever the means I'm having. Sometimes I use arithmetic or logical, because the way of learning is like this, friends. Whatever the concepts you have seen, on top of the concepts, we need to integrate the new concepts. Okay, so we have seen so far identifiers, operators, all those things. Now we are talking about the conditions. What we need to do, just we need to integrate these things with respect to the learning things, whatever we have learned. Now you see, if x value yields the appropriate, just we are applying the modulus operator, which is giving the outcome. If this particular outcome is 0, okay, so then we can say that is the even number. For even number, if I'm dividing by 2, it should give 0, okay, as a result of the division. Otherwise, it is odd. So as I'm taking x value as 10, and if you see, I can observe that, yes, this 10 value is divisible by 2, so that it is satisfying the first condition. Whereas if you see here, x value I'm putting up as 5, and whereas I'm making use of the convention as x value is definitely not giving the division as 0. Okay, then it becomes the odd value. And similar to those things, like plenty of those kind of the things are there, friends. In the course of this study, I'm going to release the supplement questions on this Python. So in that particular case, maybe definitely the reverse number and all these prime numbers, all these generations I will be talking about as a supplement kind of the release. But in this course, just we are focusing on the main aspects for a typical practitioner or a student who is going to attempt in exams and all. Just I'm keeping those things in mind, so that I'm giving these narrations. Okay. So just we are assigning these values x and y. X value becomes 10, y value is 20 as per this representation. So what we are doing is just we are checking the bigger number. So if x value is greater than y, okay, 10 greater than 20, false, so that y is big. Similarly, and most importantly, friends, like as of now, just what we are doing is we are simply giving. the appropriate values at the time of declaring the variable. But sometimes there is a possibility of giving the values. I want to read the values through keyboard. Then in that case, just there is a specification like input, enter value. Okay, like that. And if you want to enter the integer, just to give the integer, or else if you want to enter float, you can give the float value. Okay, so and let us try to understand the logic. So if x value is greater than y, then I am printing x value is greater than y, else x is less than y. And the third possibility is also there, friends. Maybe if I am giving the equal values, x value as 5 and y value as 5, then in that case, there is a third option actually. So far we have seen if and as well as the else only. There is a third option also there. Maybe if I want to check, majority of the times it happens. Suppose I want to recruit the people who are having the certification in data engineering, data science, or PySpark or Python or whichever. So there are multiple options. I need SQL developers and Python developers, Spark developers, PySpark developers, scikit-learn, who knows, matplotlib, like various opportunities I'm having so that I can recruit multiple members. So in that particular case, just I can make use of these multiple options. So here also there are certain aspects, especially in the comparison of the numbers. One number may be greater, one may be less, and one may be equal. Like that, we're having certain kind of the consideration. So in that particular case, just I can make use of these kind of thing. Only the distinction is rather than using if and else condition, I'm having the elif. Okay, so as many number of times you can use this thing based on the number of conditions. So let us run this. So just it is obviously, as I said, it is asking the value 10. And as we are taking the y value also, first let us check the first condition. Okay, 5. Now you see x greater than 5. Again, if you are running the code, this time we'll check the second condition 10 and y value I'm giving as 20. X is less than 5. Now let us see for the third condition where x value is 10 and y value is also 10. Okay, x equal to y. So like that, it is always a better practice to get the appropriate input value from the keyboard, and accordingly you can check your conditions. Similarly, and moreover, if you don't want to lengthy, some people want to crisp their coding, and especially as we are getting some sort of conventions or flexibility in the programming, then always you prefer to simplify the coding. So in that particular case, what we are doing is just we are reading the value, and here the usage of the if else statement, friends. Rather, what we are doing is just we are making use of one outcome A. Initially, it is positive. Like if b greater than 0, then only we can give the positive. Otherwise, else it is negative. So this is the other way of writing the code, friends. And as we are getting the familiarity with the aspects. Now you see, now I am giving -9, so which is giving the negative value. So here if I am running through, just I am giving the value 10, just it is a positive kind of the notion. There are many ways to write this particular kind of the coding. And another thing like running multiple times. Okay, so here the same way how I am writing this particular code, I can mention this way: b greater than 0 positive, otherwise negative. So the same line can be given these number of ways. Okay, and suppose if I want to embed multiple conditions in the same way, like so here only two conditions and one condition I have checked, but whereas here there is a possibility of checking multiple conditions. So just to run through, and if I am giving zero value, it directly goes to the zero. Likewise, how many times I can run? So just if I'm giving -9, it goes to the negative. Suppose if I'm giving the positive value, just I can get with the positive notion. So likewise, you can perform the appropriate conditions in the single line also, guys. Okay. So this is what how you can perform the if statement, if elif, and as well as the else condition. So let us observe what we have seen earlier. So in case of the conditions, okay. So in case of the conditions, just we have seen the first condition is if statement, And if I am just checking the condition and I am making use of the colon, and indentation is important. Okay, if you are not giving the indentation, obviously Python returns the error. The second possibility is if condition. Okay, if this is true, then only the set of statements are executed. Otherwise, I can see the else. These are all the false conditions. Okay, not true conditions. And coming to the third option, so just we are making use of the third option as there are multiple conditions if, elif, else. Like that, I can scope the multiple conditions. Okay, so hope you got the essence of this conditional statements. And in the next session, so just we are going to talk about the loops, especially the for loop usage. All these kind of things are very much helpful in our programming. Okay, see you in the